Um, all right, pleased to be joined by Mia Blanchett, new CEO at HGA Architects and Engineers right here in Minneapolis. Mia, thanks for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, is it warm there in St. Paul? Are you in St. Paul right now? Is it pretty
No,
warm there?
we're in Minneapolis,
In Minneapolis, okay.
in
It's
the
warm here.
North Loop. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like crazy kind of
yeah,
strange warm here in Ridgefield where I am sitting right now. So
yeah. It's weird.
it is weird. But anyway, hey, thanks for joining me. And I wonder, I guess before we get started talking about your new role with HGA, congratulations
Mhm.
on that, by the way.
Thank you.
I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about yourself and how you got into this business, what inspired you to become an architect.
Mhm.
Is it just one of those things that you wanted to do since you were a kid, or did it kind of come to you later in life? How did that play out?
Yeah, great question. I am honored to have been appointed as HGA CEO just last week. I've been on the job about 2.5 days so far. I am one of those people who has always wanted to be an architect. Where did the inspiration come from? My mom was an elementary school teacher and we had graph paper on the kitchen counter and we loved to draw floor plans. And anyone who came over, we would say, draw a floor plan. And it was just one of these things. And I never really thought any other way about it. Then I was in architecture school and one of my teachers said, you have to really love buildings. And that's kind of stuck with me, and I thought to myself, I do love buildings. And if you don't love buildings, do not be in this profession. So loving buildings does help. I guess one thing that has inspired me to stay an architect is, the incredible variety of activities that we get to do and the tangible results. A built physical thing is an incredible a reward, and the incredible people that I've met and interacted with along the way here. So I guess that's what's kept me in there. I have been at HGA for 35 years.
I was gonna say that it sounds like you joined HGA pretty much right out of college. Is that right?
Yeah. In college, I was a student at the
College.
University of Minnesota, and it was my part-time internship job.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you've got me beat. I've only been at my job here for almost 26 years now. So congrats. That's quite a run, 35
Yeah.
years. And it looks like just looking at your bio, you've worked on some pretty cool projects through the years. And I want to ask you about that. And I guess one project in particular is the state capitol
Yeah.
renovation. And
Yeah.
that was I wrote a number of articles about that when that
Mhm.
project was happening, and I know it was challenging and a very complex project.
Yeah.
What do you remember most about working on that project?
Oh gosh. Um, you start digging into, I think there's so many memories. I mean, it really is the project of a lifetime for so many of us, including all the crafts people that were out there working on that job. The memorable part is, the fact that it was like a decade. And another memorable part is once you start digging in, the things you discover, inside those walls and the things that reveal themselves on a daily basis that you try to anticipate, but boy, there's some mysteries buried in there. And then how do you react as a team? The other super memorable part is weaving in all the necessary engineering. So this was a HGA architects and engineers, and historic preservationists, and just finding the super creative ways to fit those huge ducts in there and really retrofit those light fixtures to, that place used to be dark. And how do you match the aesthetic, be historically accurate, and bring the amount of light in there, among thousands of other challenges. But
Yeah.
and I guess what I really remember is the party afterwards. The weekend long celebration. We're all, citizens of the state of Minnesota were invited, and it was a really great celebration of the People's House.
Mm-hmm. Well, it turned out beautifully. So congrats on
And
that, and to the whole
thank
project
you.
team. So you've been with HGA 35 years, and
Yes,
tell us about kind of your, I guess, how you progressed
sure.
through the ranks there, and kind of what you did most recently before taking on the role of CEO.
Sure. So I started here as a second year architecture school student. And on my first day, my supervisor said, I think we'd have you build a model. We'd like you to build a model. And I said, no, that sounds too hard. I thought that sounded too hard. And she said, okay, well, how about we just get you going on some drawings on day one here? And then I went on to build like hundreds of models. But anyway, it sounded a little too hard for me on that first day.
Hmm.
But, HGA really does believe in the physical models. We have a great model shop here. I spent a bunch of years in it. Great way to visualize and get your hands on the shape that the building is going to take.
Mhm.
I was a technical project architect for years. Great thing about HGA is having the in-house engineers. So I would go down to where the engineers are and just soak it in. And they are great teachers. I learned so much from working elbow to elbow with the engineers, and I still thank them for that. So then I turned into a project manager, managing engineers, managing architects, managing interior designers, bringing it all together, project after project. Then I grew into being a principal, finding work, putting teams together, delivering the work. And that was in what we called at the time, our corporate group. And then we added the government and public to that group. So I was a principal in our public corporate group, and then became the market sector leader of our public corporate group, which was across country, leading teams coast to coast and getting them to knit their efforts together to really work together as a team. So we grew that group quite a bit over the last 8 years or so.
Mhm. And then how do your day-to-day duties change now? I know you're only a few days into the job, but what has changed now since you've taken on this new role?
Oh, well, we have a wonderful up and running executive management team that I'm now the newcomer to. So lucky for me, they've all been doing this. So this is the chief operating officer and, HR and legal and marketing, and they are a well-oiled team, and they're showing me the ropes. We have an excellent board who I am working hand in hand with, and Tim Carl, the outgoing CEO. It was great to have about 2.5 months of overlap with Tim. So he really got to show me the ropes. So it's difficult, but stepping away from lots of my projects, and again, super lucky to have great teams there to take over, working with our really great clients, and coming up out of the public corporate bubble and looking across HGA to healthcare, arts, community, education, engineering. So getting a little bit of a broader view of what is going on across all the parts of our firm, which is super exciting for 5 offices in California and 2 on the East Coast and 4 here in the Midwest. So it's really been a great chance to stretch out and see what we're all doing, which is really my passion. How are we all interacting together?
Yeah, you mentioned Tim. I know I've talked to him a number of
Mhm.
times over the years, and I think he was working pretty hands-on on the American Swedish Institute expansion, if
Yeah.
I recall that accurately. And I have
That's
to ask
right.
you about that project because I'm 99.9% Swedish. So that was another cool project that you guys did that
Yeah, that's a
were,
great
were you,
project.
yeah, were you involved in that one at all or?
No, I really wasn't. Other than, getting to go to a couple tours and, just being nearby people who were working on it. But yeah, what a really fun project. And do you go there much?
I haven't been there in a while now, but I used to go there and I always enjoyed
Mhm.
the visits and
Yeah,
it's kind of cool because you can distinguish it between the new and the old and it's still kind of it goes together well, but it's clear what
right,
you got a new part and the historic part and
right.
I think I think it works well.
Thank
Um,
you.
but yeah, I guess to circle back a little bit, you mentioned the I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about HGA as a company. I know you've been around for what, 70 years now as a company,
Yes,
but you've been there half of that history.
I
That's
have.
pretty
Yep.
cool. But tell us a little bit more about some of the areas of practice and where geographically you do your work and that kind of thing. You have offices, 13 offices coast to coast, is
Right.
that right?
That's right. Yep. So, in the Bay Area of California, we have San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland, and then not too far from there is Sacramento. So
Mhm.
offices in those four locations, Los Angeles and San Diego. That takes care of California. Here in the Midwest, us here in Minneapolis, Rochester, Milwaukee, and our building performance group is in Madison, Wisconsin. They're a really great growing and technical energy efficiency group. We really like working with them. And then on the East Coast, Boston, Alexandria, Virginia, and Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Is that 13? Did I get them all?
I wasn't counting, but it sounds about right.
They start to add up after a while.
Yes. Um, so I guess just, looking ahead and just, you have any thoughts in general terms about the outlook outlook for architecture and engineering firms in the coming year? Um, in terms of, I guess if you could address your situation and maybe more broadly to kind of what the landscape looks like as far as backlog of projects and future opportunities and things of that nature. I know there have been
Wow.
some investments at both the state and national level that hopefully will stimulate some
Mhm.
construction and keep people busy. But do you have any general thoughts on that?
Sure. I think we're seeing a lot more, well, I'll just call it collaboration. And maybe a little bit of a silver lining of the pandemic is how much more fluidly we're working together across those 13 offices, just by virtue of kind of equalizing and everybody, the flattening of the Zoom screen and all of us working together. But we're seeing a lot of mixed projects between businesses, government, arts, education, healthcare, kind of combining together. And the way we look at that is it really brings about exciting design opportunities for us. And how are these projects coming to fruition in the current market? It's new and interesting and less rigid, I guess, as it used to be. So that's super exciting for us. And again, working side by side with the engineers, we love to bring new and innovative ideas combined with the demand on the engineering skills for projects like that. So that's super exciting as we look forward to the upcoming year, again, across offices and across disciplines and across building uses, combined building uses. That's what we're seeing a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
We're also seeing a lot of kind of the strategic adaptive reuse that you mentioned. And we feel like we can really help cities evolve to meet the current challenges and the incentivizing that the government programs are doing that you mentioned. Cities were, dare I say, struggling a tiny bit before the pandemic and were hit hard then by the pandemic. So there is so much passion at HGA about this topic. How can we help revitalize our cities, starting right here in Minneapolis? HGA does have a group that a group of researchers, a group that does research and is researchers. And we are excited to be working with the city of Minneapolis right now to help them discover who's coming downtown and how long they're staying and why, et cetera. We're asking these questions and then hoping to extend the research that we're doing here to all those other cities that our offices are in that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So these are complex projects, and we're really looking to, roll up our sleeves and dig in there with cities and help, and building owners and developers, and how do we work together to figure out what's going to work and then implement it.
Okay. I also wanted, and I believe, just to switch to another topic, you are the first female CEO in the history of HGA. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. And I know that you have been, I guess, active in issues of gender equity and diversity, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and what some of the
Sure.
strategies are for making the industry more diverse?
Yeah. So we at HGA, we had kind of a grassroots push into equity. Oh, I don't know, a decade ago. There was a lot of work done by the AIA and others kind of about the missing 32%, or all the things that pull women out of the profession, kids and those darn kids. And I guess that led to a really intense training at HGA, and the push for equity being part of our strategic plan. So that led to a director of equity, Terry Howard, who works with us now on lots and lots of programs in-house to really push this along. And then I think, it's gender equity, but it is racial equity as well. And the pipeline, into our profession is just really behind in this area, and it's become glaringly important. But the whole industry is trying to get more organized on this, and I think we can hold ourselves accountable. And I think industry-wide, we are looking to hold ourselves accountable. Nationally, we join organizations like NOMA and the AIA Large Firm Roundtable, et cetera. And I think everybody's really feeling this responsibility. Additionally, at each of our local offices that we talked about, they're diving in. Where can they bring interns from? Here in Minneapolis, the Dunwoody's new program is a place we like to draw from. And I think it's just a constant push on this. I mean, equity is just a living, breathing part of HJ and woven into everything we do. And we're just not taking our eyes off of that. We're looking at how we promote our compensation in-house, training for everyone, inclusive benefits. And, once you're, say you're in the door as an intern here at HJ, what kind of opportunities, can we find for you? Is it a rich learning experience? Not to overwhelm, but just really giving the right size nuggets to, kind of inspire the way I was inspired. I mentioned the amount of variety and learning, and it just kept coming. And so how do we give the right size assignments to, keep you interested and nurture you, foster the process along once you're here.
Yeah, and I think it's just the fact that we're talking about it now, and
Totally.
we're seeing these efforts across the board in terms of gender equity and diversity. I think that's important. And is that a big change from, I mean, how does that compare to when you first came into the industry 35 years ago?
Totally different. I was on HGA's board about 8 to 12 years ago. I
Mhm.
was the only woman on there. I was the third woman on our board ever. And today, 7 of the 9 board members are women.
Mm.
So we've had a big shift there. I used to go to meetings where I was the only woman, on projects regularly.
Mhm.
And that's completely flipped now. So I think HGA is about 50% women, and back to that missing 32%, the problem has always been, okay, your firm might be 50% women, but what about at the leadership levels? So we've seen a lot of changes
Mhm.
lately in that area. So
Excellent.
the more difficult question is the racial equity in our profession right now.
Mm.
And that's there's a lot of barriers to, I think the AIA and the large firm roundtable groups like that are really looking at how do we reduce these barriers. The starting salary, after you've gone to all that, after you've taken in all that education is a bit low. And so I think when people are evaluating and looking at their prospects and what should I commit to and what should I invest in, it it doesn't quite factor up to the reward that they're looking for right out of school. So it's we got to work on that, and I think the AIA is digging into that a bit.
Mhm. Well, great. Well, thanks for that insight, Maya. And I'm actually running out of specific questions, but you've been you've been generous with your time. I was wondering if there's anything else that you would like to talk about or address, um, in terms of your new role or the industry as a whole. Um, any parting
Well,
thoughts before I let you go?
I just glancing down at my notes, I think perhaps just looking at 2024, and maybe something that is still worth talking about is how we and other firms are really creating a much stronger culture around sustainability goals. And I think back to the projects that are crossing all kinds of that are totally interconnected and so many mixed uses, sustainability is right up there. And our building performance group that I mentioned in Madison, and the way that they can help, looking at decarbonization and retro commissioning, and how do we really tee up these buildings or tune up these buildings to be as energy efficient as you can. And I think this is a major push for HGA and most firms around the country. What we've really seen is where architects and engineers have wanted to go with sustainability for years, really seeing 90% of our clients now feeling the same way. So it's taken a bit. And then taking a look at our own footprint as well, our doing a yearly impact report, tracking our own carbon footprint, putting it out there publicly, how we're hitting our own sustainability goals at HGA. So I think that's worth mentioning as well. That's about it. That's about all I got.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we started out this conversation by talking about how unseasonably warm it is here in January.
Yeah.
I'm not a climate scientist. I don't claim to be, but you think there's something weird's going on with our weather, and so
how can we help out with that?
Right. Yeah. So yeah. So keep up the good work, and yeah. Really enjoyed our conversation. And congrats again on the new role.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Take care. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.